These white guys make the big bucks by telling all the other whites to be less white. Professor Sam Williams of the wretched Penn State University hosts an utterly worthless class.
Can you two introduce yourselves?
Hi, I'm Sophia. I'm a freshman. My major is communication sciences and disorders.
I'm Eli. I am a junior finance major.
We have to come up with an explanation for things that are wrong in the world, okay? And the explanation is either going to land on people themselves or systems or things that are outside of our control. Nobody wants there to be schools in the United States where classrooms don't have windows, where kids don't have a gymnasium, where people don't have books, students don't have books, right? So either A, we look at the kids themselves and we say, you don't drop out. Work hard, study, do whatever you need to do. Overcome the obstacles, right? And then when people don't do that, then the problem is, then we say well, that's your fault. You had a choice. But there's another set of explanations. And you've heard me say this before, where it's they have this idea that people spend too much time talking about that stuff and not enough time talking about personal responsibility. Because in the end, the kid that drops out makes a series of choices to drop out. The problem that we run into is that we have to come up with an explanation for things that are wrong in the world, okay? And the explanation is either going to land on people themselves or systems or things that are outside of our control, things that people don't really create. Nobody wants poor schools. Nobody wants there to be schools in the United States where classrooms don't have windows, where kids don't have a gymnasium, where people don't have books, students don't have books, right? You've taught without books. Right?
Yeah, a lot of students don't have books or can't get to school, or it's just a lot. And a lot of people think it's just urban area and it's rural, and it's everywhere.
And nobody wants that. There's no one in the United States that would say that's a good thing. So the problem is we got to understand what the reasoning is. And we want to understand why it is that kids in some schools, like in your school, very few kids dropped out of your high school, I'm sure. Probably very few kids dropped out of your high school. But this guy has worked in high schools where lots of kids drop out. And so we want to understand why that is. What's the reason for it? So either A, we look at the kids themselves and we say, you don't drop out. You're going to destroy your life if you drop out. Do your homework. Do what you need to do. Don't get disciplined, right? Don't commit crimes. Don't get whatever it is, right? Work hard, study, do whatever you need to do. Overcome the obstacles, right? And then when people don't do that, then the problem is, then we say that's your fault. You had a choice. But there's another set of explanations. And you've heard me say this before, where it's people mostly follow other people around them. People, we're shaped by things that are really outside of our control. We don't really understand the ways in which, for example, Sophia, I'm sure you have the idea that, and Eli, did you go to a good high school? Was it a good school? Yeah?
Yeah, I went to a public school, but it was pretty good.
Pretty good? Okay, so the two of you don't think about the degree to which the school you went to is largely responsible for the fact that here you are at Penn State, right? That you're going to be inclined to think that, hey, the decisions I, Sophia, made, or I, Eli, made. Like, I overcame the obstacles. I did the things that I needed to do to climb these stairs of upward mobility. Like, I did that. It's me. Like, I worked really hard to make that happen. So the two of you, you pat yourselves on the back because you're like, yeah, I did all that. But what you don't see, unless you go hang out with this guy in one of these classrooms, what you don't see are all the ways in which a community and an environment, and not just your home, but the homes of all the people around you, and money and jobs and the schools that just suck, and schools that have like water is every time it rains, it's like there are leaks, and it's just like things falling apart. What you don't see are the ways in which those things can really stop people from this upward mobility. Could just stop it. Because you just imagine that you could overcome the obstacles. Like, you have no choice but to imagine that for the two of you. But like, critical race theory tends to deconstruct this stuff over here to get people to look at the larger systems in play. People who are critical of this, they have this idea that people spend too much time talking about that stuff and not enough time talking about personal responsibility. Because in the end, the kid that drops out makes a series of choices to drop out. Doesn't matter if that kid feels like I have no other choice, because it's kind of like the two of you didn't drop out of school because you were never going to drop out of high school, right? Like, it was just never going to be part of the choice. Never. And so that was not even on the table for you. And so the critics of this critical race theory have the idea that we're not giving people enough responsibility and making them take responsibility for themselves. Right? Dude, why are you here, man? Dude, like, how did you make it? Like, what happened? Because you grew up, your mom's from Sierra Leone.
Yeah.
How'd you what are you doing here, man? Because you're like a statistical anomaly. Like, you shouldn't be here.
See, the powerful thing is, like, for instance, like, just like I was saying, and just like what Sam is trying to say, it's just like, in our day-to-day life, we're just so busy just doing us that we don't even think about all the things that shape us, right? Yeah, I can look back at my high school and I can say, yeah, it was like not the best high school, but if I worked hard, I did well. I earned my spot at Penn State. But also, what if I was to say that I had teachers that reached out to nonprofit organizations to like get like me and my friends the opportunity just to apply to a scholarship. And that's just not common in our schools, in our cities, because most of the students can't even afford to go to college. I'm from Philly. Most students can't afford to go to college in their own city, right? Or the fact that it's like, oh, I had teachers that pushed me to do after-school activities because, colleges look at extracurriculars. So it's easy to say, oh, I worked hard, I got here on my own merit, but like, what am I not seeing? Just like it's easy for you to say, oh, I'm up here at Penn State, I got it out the mud. No, you did not. How many people took an SAT prep class or had an SAT prep class offered at their school? Let me see a show of hands. Yeah, that's not a reality for the other side of America that you don't see. And I think, and I know, the most important thing in critical race theory is the part critical, right? Just like in critical thinking, it's teaching us how to think. Because when you think and you start to realize, oh, wait, why am I in this position and the people that come from that neighborhood are not in position? Why is it like that? Or for instance, why is it that in the communities that I serve or the communities that we place teachers at, 1 out of every 10 kids will get their college degree? But let me give you some perspective. The school I taught at, 1 out of every 10 kids will get their college degree by the age of 25. But if you drive just 20 minutes into Abington High School, Abington's a suburb outside of Philly, 9 out of every 10 kids will get their college degree by the age of 25. So what's the difference? How does 20 minutes make such a drastic difference? Is it like the kids 20 minutes down the way, do they just work harder? Or like, is there something more going on, right?
So this is the sociology of this stuff, right? This is where the people who critique critical race theory, who don't understand, this is the stuff that has to be talked about, and why it's essential to talk about this stuff. And I think a lot of people who critique it don't understand that this is also a part of it.